You know, there's another before me. You'll never be mine. I'm wasting my time.
That's so sad.
What do? You
have your midnight confessions in front of groups of people.
Thank you for joining us again on Classic Vinyl Podcast. This is the podcast where we listen to and review songs and albums from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s. We're going to do a little grassroots today. I am one of your hosts, Justin, and once again, I'm joined in our basement studio by my co-host, Tyler. Yeah, you're here again.
I am, and thank you so much because the grassroots, this is an actual band name, not a movement, a political movement.
Well, it could be either, but
sure.
I've always enjoyed the grassroots, and maybe I shouldn't, but they're not good. The movement, the band.
Yeah, the band. The band's really good.
And speaking of the band, do you want to get to a little history on the grassroots?
Let's do their history. Tell me about them.
Well, they're a band that has a very strange history. They were formed as a studio act by producer Lou Adler and songwriter-producer Steve Barry and P.F. Sloan. They were an American band that was mostly active from 1965 to 1975. They have been described as a lot of different sounds, pop, rock, kind of country-ish rock. It's kind of hard to explain. To me, it's just good rock and roll music, really. They were basically turned into a real band after the song Where Were You When I Needed You got some attention after being recorded by P.F. Sloan and some other studio musicians. So they recruited a San Francisco band called the Bedouins to become the Grassroots. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is it's kind of like the Monkees in a way. We've done a couple Monkees episodes, but the Monkees were created to, be a fictional band on TV.
Yeah.
This was kind of created, they were writing all these songs, and we've got to find a band that's a real band to bring them in and be this band, which is kind of a strange thing, but we're going to write music for them and change their name and make them a different band. But
so the name of the band is how they came to be. This is a grassroots movement.
It basically is. So the band was together for the first album until the producers pulled in the Los Angeles-based group called the 13th Floor to become the new Grassroots. So they were now the Grassroots. It's really strange how this worked, but this new incarnation of the band recorded the Let's Live for Today album, which Let's Live for Today is one of their most popular songs, where they also recorded a new version of that original song I was telling you, Where Were You When I Needed You? Now, this band consisted of Rob Grill on lead vocals and bass, Creed Bratton on guitar, Rick Kuntz on drums, and Warren Entner on guitar and keyboards.
And Creed Bratton from The Office.
Yes.
That is the guy.
Yeah, he played the fictionalized version of himself on the sitcom The Office, and he's been in a ton of other TV shows and movies too, but he's part of the Grassroots. So, and this, of course, is the most popular version of the band, the 13th Floor that was turned into the Grassroots. They're the most popular version. And the weird thing about this band is if you go search them on, let's say, Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you stream your music, there's going to be about 6 different versions of each song. There's some of the original versions, and then they've re-recorded them several times. I have listened to the Grassroots enough that I kind of know what the originals sound like, but it's kind of an interesting thing because if you don't know, they're okay, but they're different. So,
Max, well, I'm intrigued by the name thing because the Bedouins, Grassroots is a better name, better band name than the Bedouins, but the 13th Floor. That one seems kind of straight across the table. It just the Grassroots isn't that great of a band name that I'm like, oh, no matter what band we have to call it the Grassroots.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. You would have thought, okay, if we're going to bring in and write some music for a band, why can't they keep their name if it's a decent name? I don't know where that came from, but apparently it worked. So
sure.
So the band's had many different lineups over the years with Rob Grill as the lead singer most of the time on those different tours and variations of the band up until his death in 2011. Now, the band has had almost 60 members during the band's history, and they're still touring today, albeit the band has no original members. None of the original or the original second originals or whatever you want to call it. But
nobody from the Bedouins or the 13th Floor.
Exactly. All in all, the Grassroots have released 16 studio albums, 35 singles, and multiple compilations over the years. More compilations than you can count, I promise. 16 singles reached the top 50 in the U.S., 3 in the top 10, with Midnight Confessions being their top, the one we're doing today, hitting number 5 on the Billboard charts. This had just 2 albums in the top 50 in the U.S., with their fourth album being their highest charting at number 25. Overall, they had 2 gold albums, 2 gold singles, and charted a total of 21 times on the Billboard charts. They had moderate success in Canada, but very, very little success in the UK. And this is a band that, although they've sold about 25 million albums worldwide, they're not super popular, and I choose to do them because they're a band I've always enjoyed. So that's why we're talking about the Grassroots today.
And you're introducing me and perhaps our listeners to new music.
And speaking of listeners, we did a few months back have a guy named Rob from Tallahassee say he wanted us to do some Grassroots, and he specifically wanted Midnight Confessions. We had this on our list because we were going to do it anyways. So, Rob, it's a little late, but here we go.
Yeah, thank you for your patience, Rob.
So do you want to get to the song review?
Yeah, let's review it.
And now it's time for the song review.
So, of course, today we're doing the Grassroots and Midnight Confessions. Tyler, what is your history with this song?
I've heard the song. I would not know the song by the name Midnight Confessions, mostly because the vocals on it seem a little muddied, and so I didn't really get Midnight Confessions for the most part.
And would you know it was the Grassroots?
Not at all.
Okay, I didn't figure. So you've probably heard the song when I played it in my office when we worked together, and it still gets radio airplay on the classic rock radio. But the Grassroots were a pretty popular band in the late 60s, and I would say they're one of those, we always talk about it, but they're definitely one that got lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without a doubt. Even though they've got half a dozen songs that still see radio play, I don't think most people could name who they are.
True.
So let me give you a little history on the song Midnight Confessions. It was released as a single on June 19th of 1968. The B-side was a song called Who Will You Be Tomorrow? Now, this song was written by Lou Josie. So this was recorded at ABC Dunhill Studios in Los Angeles, California, and produced by Steve Barry. Now, Steve Barry was a pretty famous producer. He produced Tommy Roe, The Turtles, Herman's Hermits, Johnny Rivers, and of course the Grassroots, among others. So Rob Grill and Warren Entner share lead vocals on this, but the music on this is recorded by the world-famous Wrecking Crew. And that's another similarity to the Monkees is we've talked about the Monkees before, where their first 2 albums, they were pretty much all session musicians, and you had that with the Grassroots as well. This, for the Grassroots, was released only as a single and is not on an actual studio album of theirs, although it's hit every compilation they've ever had, which the last count I had, they had over 45 compilations. So,
and this is on every one of them.
This is on every one of them. So this song was originally recorded by the Evergreen Blues Band, although it did not chart. But the Grassroots producer Steve Barry heard the song and thought it would be a perfect song for his new Grassroots movement band, whatever you want to call it.
And he wasn't far off.
He wasn't far off. Now, this was the band's first song that featured horns in it. And that's something I was going to say. It's something I shouldn't like that much, but because I'm not a huge horn fan, but it is what it is. The horn section of the song is arranged by a guy called Jimmy Haskell, and he's worked with a lot of popular artists, Elvis Presley, Neil Diamond, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Steely Dan, Billy Joel, Simon and Garfunkel, the Everly Brothers, on and on and on. So,
and Wally and the Beaver.
Wally and the Beaver.
No, that was his son, Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie Haskell. You're right. So this song reached number 5 in the U.S. charts and number 4 in Canada. Did not chart in the U.K. This was the band's biggest hit, and the single sold over 1 million copies, and it was certified platinum by the RIAA here in the U.S. So the lyrics are pretty easy to follow, and if you kind of listen to them, you can kind of figure out what they're talking about. But they describe a man who is infatuated with a woman, and this woman happens to be married.
Mm-hmm.
He pretty much realizes he can never have her, so he has to confess his love for her in a song. He's obsessed with her completely, thinks about her all the time, but he's severely tormented because he knows he cannot have her. And I think you get that part with, but a little gold ring you wear on your hand makes me understand. There's another before me. You'll never be mine. I'm wasting my time, but I'm still going to sing about it, right?
Yeah. So the term Midnight Confessions, I'm guessing, and it's probably this straightforward, but that's just like a metaphor for him performing at concerts in front of crowds when he says, I'm going to tell the world that I love you.
I would guess so, because Midnight Confessions to me sounds kind of adulterous.
Yeah, it seems like he's playing it like a nightclub, right?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know, but So this is the first time you sat down and listened to this song with the purpose of reviewing it. What are your initial thoughts? And what are your thoughts on this?
Makes much more sense when I sit down actively listening to the lyrics, listening to the music. I love when songs have music that matches up perfectly with the lyrics, and this is one of those. I find this song, the horns fit very nicely in there. I know your feelings about horns, but I feel like it really fits there.
Well, and to interject on that, I said I don't like horns, but I think of all the songs, the Beatles are one of my favorite bands. They use horns in a lot of songs.
Yeah.
The Doors on the Soft Parade, it's saturated with horns. And even though I don't tend to like them, I like them a lot. So it's just kind of one of those things.
Yeah. And this song, the message of the song, it does have that kind of, I wouldn't say remorseful, but kind of a yearning or a longing or just kind of, he's chasing a dream that he can't reach, right? He's reaching for the star and he can't reach it, but he loves it. And yet he does have that feeling that, love is a positive thing. He's in love with her. He just can't have her. Found a place where he can acknowledge that publicly, declare it openly. Nobody knows that this is the lady who, when, listening to the lyrics, it seems like he's like, oh, well, I'm sitting next to you. I feel it. And so it seems like he has to interact with her socially or professionally on a daily basis or fairly regularly. Maybe they sit on the PTA together. I don't know.
I wonder why he never made a pass at her. Maybe she is the kind of girl that wouldn't worry about being married.
Maybe
she's in an unhappy marriage.
Yeah, and maybe he is having that kind of restraint because that's the kind of gentleman he is he would never make a pass at a married woman. He still loves her. And he's going to tell the world about it.
Yeah, he's not going to make a pass at her, but he's going to write a song and sing it to everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's sweet. I really enjoyed this song. I had a good time listening to it. And like I said, when the beat and the music really matches up with that message, it captures it perfectly because there's a darkness that comes in with this being such a bass-heavy song. This is heavily driven by the bass and puts this darkness in there. So it's like, this isn't on the up and up, but it's still a good song. And what are your feelings about this one, Justin?
It's funny because it's sometimes like you always are reading my notes, but my first note is the bass. Now, it has a bass intro to open it, then it goes into the horns. And the two things in this song are the bass, number one, and the drums, number two. The bass is thick as shit throughout this song. Mm-hmm. It's the driving force behind this song, and we'll call it out. That's Carol Kaye from the Wrecking Crew. We've talked about her many a times.
We love Carol Kaye.
And she is an absolute master. And the bass is the number one thing on this. The drums pound through this song. Those two things, it's a very pounding, driving song, even though it does lack guitar.
Yeah, that's something that I was going to point out and ask you. I didn't pick up any guitar in this, and so there is no guitar, right?
No, there is guitar in it. It's just mixed way to the back, and I don't know if it's just a little acoustic or whatnot, but I was reading the liner notes on it, and there is guitar in it.
Okay. But I don't pick it up at all.
But the bass and the horns and the drums just pound through this thing the whole way through. I think... Yeah. Replacing the horns with some good guitar work would have been excellent in this song too. I would have liked to hear that.
It would have been fine. I think what the horns do, and this is where I go back to like the message matching the music, is that horns are so loud and blaring in your ear that it's like, the bass and the drums pounding, thumping. It's like, you can feel him sitting next to this lady and his heart is just pounding out of his chest because he really, really likes her.
Yeah, and I get what you mean by that because the music really does follow the theme of the song. It seems to make sense for some reason, but this is a song I really shouldn't like, devoid of any guitar and heavy on the horns, but I think with Carol Kaye's bass and the pounding drums and the lyrics make sense, and it's a good song. I've always liked the Grassroots. My dad introduced me to them, and I remember listening to them when I was in like 6th, 7th grade or something and really enjoying them. I remember my friends telling me, what is this shit you're listening to? Because that certainly wasn't the popular thing at the time.
No, let's see. That would have been the 90s.
It's certainly not the popular thing now, but the Grassroots hold a special place for me. And I enjoy most of at least their first 3 or 4 albums. I really enjoy. So good band.
Yes, they are.
So you want to rate it?
Let's rate it.
Song rating.
Okay, listener, if this is your first episode listening, I'll briefly explain our rating scale. It is a 0 to 10, 10 being the best. After listening to this, I thoroughly enjoyed it so much, especially with the way that the music matches up with the message and the lyric. I had a fun time with it, so I put it in 8. Where do you put this one?
Well, we're right on par tonight.
Really?
Yeah, so I rate this song an 8 as well, which is a pretty high rating for me considering what the song is. But I think we've talked about this in previous episodes. Sometimes we even rate the songs higher than what they are because of the feeling it gives you. And this just brings me back to a teenage time and when I was really getting into, 60s and 70s music and going deep into it in the late 80s, early 90s. And so the Grassroots hold a special place for me. And they don't get overplayed either. Even their most popular song, which I'd probably say is Let's Live for Today, doesn't get overplayed. At least I don't hear it as much as I like.
This song, it's like a much better version of Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield. Rick Springfield's a little bit more creepy. And like, hey, Jesse's, we kind of get the idea that Jesse plays in the band with Rick. He's always watching his friend with her girlfriend. And they've even got like redone songs where it's like, yeah, your friend Rick is really creeping on us.
Well, at least the Grassroots or Lou Josie, who wrote this song, at least kept who he was writing about kind of secretive, I mean, he didn't just call his name straight out.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a lot better than Stevie Nicks writing a song about her ex and making him play the guitar while she's singing about him.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of crazy. So that's the Grassroots and Midnight Confessions. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email them to us at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any songs or albums you'd like us to rate, send them there as well. And like always, we appreciate you taking your time to listen. It means a ton to us. So until next time,
see ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates and also share us with your music-loving friends.